Hello, and welcome to the only podcast where once we start talking, we'll turn on each other faster than Ranzar Melk's gang. I'm Matt.
Luke.
And I'm Max.
This is Force for Thought.
I don't know who that is. The joke went over my head.
Ranzar Melk's the guy for the big beard. They don't technically trade on each other. They trade on Mandalorian during their prison escape, but
Bo Burnham?
I think it still worked. What?
Not Bill Burnham.
Bill Burnham's not in the show.
Bill Burr.
Bill Burr, yeah.
Although I would love to see
No,
Bo
I
Burnham
mean-
in Star Wars too.
That would be
That's
insane.
not his name. Bill Burr. Miggs Mayfeld is his name.
Yeah, I'm not talking about. Yeah, he's not the guy with the big beard. Ranzar Melk, the guy with the big beard and hair who associates, he gets the gang together.
Yeah.
Mayfield is a part of that gang.
Yeah, he was the lead. Okay.
Yes.
That's a good joke. All right. I'm on board.
There is, don't you love when you're at a stand-up show and you have to ask the comedian to explain the joke, and then you're like, okay, continue on. I like that. I got it now.
Hello.
I had to look his name up.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. This is episode 1 of our Mandalorian rewatch series. So starting today, and I don't know if we're going to go for the next 24 weeks in a row to get through the whole series, but at least for today, and we'll let you know about next week at the end of the night, we're reviewing The Mandalorian, episode by episode. So over this last week, of us each watched Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 1, titled The Mandalorian. And let's just get into broad thoughts before we delve into the episode kind of scene by scene. I'll take us through it. But Max, what do you think?
My first thought was I want to jump straight to a couple episodes that I'm thinking of in season 2 and 3 where I feel like the visual effects are not nearly as good. I feel like one of the largest standouts was I feel like it just looks so much better than some of the newer stuff that we see, like a lot of the creatures, like the Quarren at the very beginning and the bar scene. For some reason, it just looks better than Quarren that we see elsewhere in the show. But I'm like, surely it's the exact same, right? Because it's practical. So it's like, is this not the same costume and effects or molds or whatever they're using to make everything else? So I don't know. But that was one of the standouts for me. It was just, I forgot how good it looks. But also, it's just a great episode. I mean, if I were to rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it a solid 9 out of 10. And that's only because I know some of the episodes that are to come that I would rank it a 10 out of 10. If I was going into this blind for the first time, I would say that this is a 10 out of 10. It is a great opening episode to a TV show, which normally, upon rewatch, I don't like as much. Usually it takes a little bit of time for the characters to develop, for the plot to develop. And when I go back and rewatch things, I'm like, all right, I get the idea, but let's kind of move it along to the fun stuff. Not this show. This show just jumps right into it. You're instantly engaged, instantly enthralled, and I'm really excited to do this and go through each episode by episode and kind of review and relive them. And I'm excited to talk more about the end of the episode, I guess, because it also raises questions for me that I don't know if we actually have answers to, or if I will get the answers to them upon rewatch of episodes later in this season. So we'll see. But I enjoyed it. I'm having fun. Obviously, The Mandalorian is a fun show, so 2 thumbs up.
Matt?
Yeah, I agree. I think, did I think we were reviewing season by season? Yes, I did.
Did you watch the whole season?
So did I watch a full season? Most of it, yes. But it's been watching it kind of in the background. So I'm really excited to be able to go back and dive into these episodes a bit more. Max, I 1000% agree that specifically the first scene, it's so good looking, right? I think the problem is once it gets bigger, I think that those details are a little bit lost, I think, because there's so much going on in all the other episodes that I feel like this one is so specific. It's like 6 people in a bar, in a cantina, and that's it, right? And I feel like all those details have to be so good for the first scene specifically, but I 1000% agree. This looks great. This episode, specifically, again, high level, really enjoyed it. I remember going into it, right, the first time, 2019, Star Wars' TV show, like, how's it going to be? I think that it separates itself enough by being its own thing, right? At this point, even at the end of this episode, we don't really know the structure of Mandalorian, right? We don't really understand the structure of it until I would say halfway through the second season, to be honest, because I feel like the first season is semi-contained, and so I don't think you even get a clear picture in this season of what it's going to be. Because this season, I think, has the most coherent structure throughout, even though it's pretty thin on story, I think, overall. But this episode specifically, I loved it. It introduces you to the world. I think much like I don't want to steal Max's thunder because I feel like this is Max's biggest thing, and I feel like I'm his co-pilot in this situation, but by far the better Mandalorian armor, and so I like that you were introduced to him in this grimy uniform, and I wish he would have been in this the entire time, to be honest, as well. But yeah, ultimately, it's like, it's fun. It is Star Wars in a TV show format. I think that this show is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because it's a great show. It's a great pilot. It's also a bit of a curse because I think they were like, Mandalorian worked, and so they try to do the same thing with a couple other characters and a couple other IP that didn't work out as well. And so I think it set a weird basis. With that being said, that's very top level. This episode specifically, I think, is great. It's got action scenes. It shows you the world of Mandalorian. Naturally, I think you don't really see those behind the scenes cracks getting filled like you do in other episodes, which I'm excited to talk about. But ultimately, amazing pilot episode that not only sets up Mandalorian and its characters, but starts up Star Wars as TV, which is like, we're 6 years past it now, but this is a huge deal at the time, right? And still is, to look back at it. So ultimately, I loved it. Luke, how about you?
I liked it. Thumbs up. I can't like review it in a vacuum because I've seen The Mandalorian.
That's unfortunate.
So, this being the episode of Mandalorian that doesn't really have Grogu in it, like I know he's in the end for a moment, but my enjoyment of episodes of The Mandalorian is pretty directly correlated to Grogu content, and so this would be lower on my list if I was ranking them all. Probably. I'll let you know for sure as we go through. There's a lot that I haven't rewatched in a long time. But I liked this episode. I was surprised because I know series and it's 3 more than 2 and 2 1, but the series has a lot of filler episodes that don't advance the plot, and I know that that's least of a problem of the 3 seasons, but there still are. I'm looking ahead at next episode. But it just shocked me how much of the plot gets established immediately. How we met all the characters immediately. Like it really, I don't want to take the wind out of anyone's sails that is more excited than I was, but it sets us up for a very tight story, and I just I guess we'll get to future episodes in the future, but I like this story. I like this setup, and I like everything that they did. I agree that the effects were great. I don't agree that the effects get worse later. Again, check back on that in a couple of weeks. But yeah, everything great and good, and all the characters, most of the characters. I don't care for the clone. We'll get to that. All right, now that we've given our high level thoughts, let's talk about that cantina. I'm not gonna say it's the best part of the episode, but it is really good.
You need to start with a bang, and they did it, right? You have to start with the coolest moment, right? And then unfortunately it does. And that's the thing. It doesn't peak, right? This episode specifically is bookended by amazing, memorable moments. And I think in between there are some great moments too. But I mean, it is, out of all the episodes of Mandalorian, this is the best bookend where you have I think the best intro scene, the best outro scene. Not of the whole show, but together. It did its job, right? And I think what Luke, what you said earlier is the fact that this has the least amount of like plot, to fill. Like it introduces the characters more. Like it does a great job, and that's the thing with it bothers me. Again, it's hard to not talk about Mandalorian in a vacuum, like you said. So, pardon me if I go in and out a little bit too. But like you said, that's why I think I do kind of fault it at moments. Again, still as a fan. Not that I'm like harping on it because it's a bad show or something, but it's like we know they can do it. They've done it. We've seen it. This is it. And I feel like this episode is a great prime example of it. Again, it's not what they are intending it to be. But again, they set the characters up so well and naturally too. You meet Grief Karga, you meet Nick Nolte, who I can't think of this character's name right now, which is a lot easier to say than Nick Nolte.
Wheel.
And I feel like, thank you. See, that is confusing, yeah. But they do. I think they do a really, really good job. And it's natural, right? You don't meet Cara Dune yet in this episode. Like, it's very natural to when you meet these characters.
I also
Cantina
really like,
scene. That's not what we're talking about.
I like the cantina. I was thrown off by the tone of it, and at first it took me a long time to think about it because, again, talking about the whole, which I'm trying not to do. So it felt tonally out of place when he threatened to kill the Mithril guy and he sliced that other guy in half with the door. I was like, this is like a horror movie, damn near. But that's the tone of The Mandalorian. I just mostly forgotten from not watching it and being so inundated with just the culture of it. And like, my son's favorite character is Grogu, and this is just not a kids show. But just experiencing it from the toys and merchandise for probably 2-3 years since Mandalorian season 3, I forgot how intense this show is. I was reminded right away, and so I was very happy with that.
Someday he's gonna watch Mandalorian.
I disagree a little bit, though.
You think it is tonally out of place?
No, I think that it's become different. Right, I think that the first season is a bit more harsh. And I think once Grogu's introduced, it softens. I think it softens
once Grogu's introduced.
Not necessarily. Yeah, at the very end of I feel like they're like, oh, this is more of a kids show, and I think it's
the
not
first episode.
Yes, at the very end, but I mean, like, I think it's a character thing, right? With Mandalorian, like, I think this is the most brutal we really see him, and I think he starts to slowly become softer as it goes along, because. Another thing I really realized in watching the first 4 episodes very intently was he actually he's a really good fighter. I mean, besides against like the is it the Matterhorn? Is that a roller coaster?
Mudhorn.
What am I saying? The Mudhorn.
Matterhorn's
the Matterhorn
Disney.
is a yes, thank you. But like he besides when he's facing this giant creature, he's actually a really good fighter, specifically in the second episode and the first episode. And I feel like that is something that they changed as they go on, because that's one of my biggest gripes as we talk about this podcast is like Mandalorian is like Din Djarin is like legitimately a bad fighter. Like, how is he a good bounty hunter? And it's like you see that in it's specifically this first episode, it's specifically in this cantina, in this first scene, he's like a really good fighter. And I think that like they soften it probably as a character just because they're like, oh, might be more of a kid's show. But at the same time, I do like that as a character trait for him, that once he has like this fatherly responsibility, he becomes a bit softer. And doesn't like just go and kill people by slicing them in half through doors necessarily. I don't think we see something that brutal again. But I love this cantina scene because besides the effects, I love this like weird chilly cantina, which we've never seen before. Usually it's on a desert planet, which, towards the end of the season we get to, but like it's this cold, chilly cantina. It's fun with these cool creatures. I think it's a great blend of this world.
Someday all of our kids are going to watch Mandalorian and watch that Quarren get sliced in half by the door in the cantina scene and be like, why did you let me like this show so much as a kid? And we're just like, it calms down in a little bit. Just wait for the little Grogu guy to show up. But I agree with Matt that the harsher side of Din Djarin is more fun to watch. I really like the death, obviously, when the Quarren is sliced in half. I also like how unnecessary it is, borderline psychopathic, because he was running away. Yes. Like, that guy was gone, and then Din Djarin just rips him back right in just to do that. So I don't know, something about that is very appealing to me. But I like the cantina scene a lot. I think it's a great setup. I like that he's kind of these patrons are picking a fight with him, and he's just playing it calm, and he doesn't say anything until he says his first line in all of Star Wars, which is, I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold, which is just such a great line to establish a character. There's so many great lines in this episode, too. Like when he's meeting with the client and the stormtroopers say that we have you outnumbered 4-1, and he says, I like those odds. It's like little things like that where I'm like, oh, man, what a badass this guy is. I absolutely love it. Yes. But the cantina scene specifically, I think it's it's a good example of why I think the visual effects look so good in this episode. And it's not necessarily because I think the visual effects have gotten worse, but because I think that the people who created this one might have known how to do them better, because it just looks grimier and darker and not as clean. And I feel like that kind of helps blur the lines a little bit when you use a lot of practical effects. Because the example that I keep thinking of, and I'm just going to throw it out because it's going to be a long time until we get to this episode, but in season 3 of The Mandalorian, the first time you see the pirate vein when Navarro is being like attacked, I forget. Goran Shard is like the main pirate, although he actually looks really good. But all the other pirates, I rewatched that episode recently, and they just don't look as good. And I think part of it is because they're in like broad daylight, like they're all very well lit, and it's just like kind of a shiny, like the atmosphere just has like a weird sheen to it that kind of like makes everything that isn't real more noticeable. Whereas this, it just feels like dirtier, and it kind of hides some of that a little bit. I don't know. I don't know nearly enough about making movies as like Matt does or anything like that, but that's kind of my opinion and takeaway from the cantina scene.
Well, I appreciate you of that, and also I agree. I think that is a huge. I also think there's an element of it where like you have a lot to prove in the first episode, right? So you're probably spending more money. You're probably spending a lot more time and detail on things, and that's the same thing. And not that we're getting like cheapened by it, but you know when you watch Friends, right? Like that might be a bad example because Friends is notoriously, I'd say, pretty good besides the Joey and I don't mind the Joey and Rachel story. I don't know why I just said that. It just feels like something that people dislike, but I don't mind it as much as everyone else. But like that show, for example, right? Like you kind of, it gets quicker because you understand the setups, you understand the jokes. Same thing with Seinfeld, right? That's just how sitcoms and shows work in general. The longer it goes on, the kind of easier it is. And so I wish I would have prepared this a bit too. But it just becomes normal and natural, right? So you start trying as hard, and you just kind of start trying to produce, which is the big difference. And that's where a lot of sitcoms come into play, I think, towards the end, right? And I think Mandalorian is kind of getting there, but with a significant shorter time. Where, Max, we've never talked about the good writing of Mandalorian, right? We usually say it's kind of more for kids, but you're right. This episode and this season has great lines. And I feel like they've stopped that because it's more plot heavy versus character heavy now. And so they're like, okay, well, we need to move this plot along. We need to have this contained little plot versus I think in this episode, they're setting up so much and they're doing such a good job of doing it. And they're giving these scenarios character building. And it's like, I wish we did get more of that consistently still in Mandalorian, because I still feel like even though we've been with Din Djarin for this long, or like same thing with, and not so much Grief Karga, I guess. Like I feel like I kind of understand him as far as he can go, but I feel like a lot of other characters, you can still give me a lot more, especially Moff Gideon. I feel like instead of getting Moff Gideon lines, we were given action, and that's why it falls a bit flat for me towards the end. Versus like in this season, it's like he is menacing and dark and scary. And then once you kind of get away with that, and you just kind of see action in a cool helmet, you know, Darth Vader isn't cool just because he looks cool. He's cool because he's got great lines and he carries a personality with what he looks like. It's that combination of the two. And I think that they start off so strong with all of these things. And I think that we are going towards plot versus character. Not to go too hard into hold the show as a whole, but after watching this episode, I really like this episode because it is doing something significantly different than I remember in this context.
We're already pretty off topic from trying to stay contained to the one episode, so I will.
Sorry, guys.
Save my defensive nature about everything you saying. I guess we'll get to it when we. Stay tuned months from now when we start reviewing season 2 and or season 3, whichever one you guys apparently fucking hate. Damn.
It's not that I hate it. It's
Good on
fine.
you, Luke.
I just rewatched it recently, and my major takeaway was, man, this is a fun episode. But to go back though, and this is to give praise to The Mandalorian, even though it sounds like I'm getting off topic because Matt brought up Friends. That's like a really good example of something where the pilot would be like the last episode I would ever choose to rewatch. Because most shows, like to me, just don't grab me that quickly. Like even right now, I'm rewatching Better Call Saul, which I absolutely love, and the A storyline with Saul jumps into it pretty quickly, and I'm pretty, even though I know where everything goes and everything, I'm like, oh, okay, this storyline's moving, this is interesting. But the best part of that show is Mike Ehrmantraut and his whole storyline, and so that part takes much slower. So the first couple episodes of even that show, which I love, I'm just like, oh man, come on, get to these good parts with Mike. Whereas this show doesn't do that. I mean, this really jumped into it very well, that I feel like I can constantly go back and rewatch to keep it in Star Wars, but also not to shit on this, because I think I ranked Ahsoka higher than you guys when we did our TV show ratings, maybe. But the first episode of Ahsoka is kind of another example of where I'm just kind of like, come on, let's go. Because it starts off with that really cool scene with Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati on the ship, and they're like slaughtering all of these New Republic ship workers or whatever. And it's great, and it's exciting. And then it goes to Ahsoka, and she is kind of like finding this map, and she's like moving these stones and everything. And I remember watching that the first time, and we're reviewing it, and we were like, man, I kind of like that it just gives you time to let you breathe and kind of sit there. But on rewatch, you really do get this sense of like, all right, come on, like let's find this map a little bit quicker. We know where it's going. But even knowing where Mandalorian is going, and I guess it goes back to, Luke, what you said, too, about the runtime. I was looking it up on IMDb. The first episode's only 39 minutes. I mean, they did really run through everything that they had set up, because it was a big episode in hardly any more time than a typical Tales of the Jedi episode would be, per se. But, yeah, I think The Mandalorian is... it sounds like I'm just giving my high overview thoughts again. The first episode of The Mandalorian, I think, is like the pinnacle of how Star Wars television should be. All of television.
Yeah, I gotta chill on my idea of it. Of course, we'll discuss the details. We'll give it the time that I want to, but it's our first time talking about Mandalorian season. Of course, we're gonna. So don't stop from. But I will try to move us along a little bit to the next scene that I wanted to talk about, when they take the speeder and that animal or that monster attacks the Razor Crest. The animal's cool, setting's cool. The speeder driver, Brian Posehn, I don't like him. I recognized him way too much. He's a goofy guy. He's such a shoo-in to be an alien. And they had him just be Brian Posehn. And I know he's not that famous, but he is to me. He's just well recognizable to me. And that it bothered me.
I don't know his name. I wouldn't know
think?
his name without looking him up. But I agree, he is one of those guys. Yes, as soon as you see him, you're like, oh, it's that guy. Like, I've seen him in 100 things. I can't think of a single one, but you definitely know him. That's kind of how I feel about him. I only noticed it on rewatch, though. I think the very first time I ever watched this episode, I didn't even realize who that was. Somebody else pointed it out to me, so I can't claim to be too upset by it. I think it was one of our other brothers, actually. I think it was our oldest brother. But
I definitely... It was jarring to me.
It is.
It's not
especially after
jarring to
that,
me for some
that
reason.
back-to-back, And especially after that first scene where you're like, holy shit, this is crazy. And you're like, oh, what the fuck is he doing here?
Yeah.
What's going on here? With that being said, I like that transition. I like that he's funny. Not him. The guy he's taking into custody I like that banter he has between him and stuff too. He's like the perfect fish out of water. He's nervous, right? He's just kind of like a nervous guy. And then I think that's how you feel as the viewer, which is fun.
Were you happy when he
what's going
died,
on.
when he gets eaten? Were you like, okay, good, I won't have to worry about him popping up again?
Oh, it just felt all the more jarring. I was like, why are you drawing more attention to this man? It was no, I did not like any scene with him, or even that one with him in the ground.
That's interesting. I think it's fine. I have no problem.
I like Brian Posehn. The only thing I can think of him in, and I'm even looking at his IMDb, And so it's really just The Big Bang Theory that I know him from, apparently. And I love him in
You
The
don't-
Big Bang Theory. I remember him in that episode of Friends, but that's it. And so
He has
It's like-
he has a small
it shouldn't
guest
be too
appearance
much.
on almost every sitcom from like the early 2000s, I feel like.
Yeah. You don't like him in The Devil's Rejects?
I've heard of it for that. matter.
Yeah. Oh, Rob Zombie's second feature, 2005. Classic.
Didn't know he had more than one.
Rob Zombie.
But you know he has more than one movie, Maxwell?
Mm-mm. I thought he just had that one horror
They're not
movie that
very
everyone
good.
liked.
Oh, House of the Corpses?
That might be it. I don't know. That's outside of my
House of the
element.
it's the Firefly family. They're not good, but he's made Halloween 2, House of 1,000 Corpses.
Oh, I did not know that he made the Halloween movies.
Uh,
That's
yeah, the
probably what
ones
I'm
from
thinking of
20.
then. That's why would you say what is this House of the Corpses? Halloween's way more famous than that movie.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. When he makes
Almost
those shitty
certainly.
remakes, that no one
Halloween
likes.
is a very iconic film.
I've definitely
Yes.
heard of Halloween and not the other one.
Well, the original Halloween, yes, but the 2007 version that no one likes is
Oh, he
is
did
a very
remake
different
of
story.
Halloween. Okay, and that makes more sense.
Yes, yeah.
When was the first
Rob
Halloween?
Maxwell,
Zombie's
do you-
not John Carpenter?
John
Yeah.
Carpenter did
Thank you,
Halloween.
Luke. Yeah, in 1978.
Oh wow, that's older than I thought. Okay, well, either way, I don't know my horror films. So that's I'm not a horror guy.
Sorry, way off track.
That's okay, because we're about to get into another topic that I'm sure you guys want to discuss. Because I remember everyone was so stoked to see a toilet in Star Wars and inside of Mando's
Yeah.
ship.
A
I
vac
don't
tube.
dislike it, but I have nothing to say about it.
He had to.
I have nothing either besides I'm glad.
He had to evacuate his thorax. He hasn't gone since the solstice.
That was
That's the
fun.
type of
That
world
sounded
building that I
interesting.
really appreciate. You know, it's like, oh, so they don't poop very often.
And Life Day's
That's the
coming up.
I think this was the first canonical mention of Life Day. I know that there was it was brought up in comics, but I don't know if that was before or after this. When did this come out? This was 2019, right? I'd have to do some additional research. Definitely in live action. I feel confident saying that.
Count the holiday special.
You don't.
don't.
It's not canon.
Right. Then we get to introduce Reef Karga.
We'll go back real
I'm
quick.
gonna
I
say
want to
similar.
favorite.
talk more about the ship and seeing the Razor Crest for the first time. Because
Ed.
this is another one that Matt and I talk about all the time about how awesome the Razor Crest is as a ship. And I like the N1 Starfighter, and I like that it's retrofitted to look like a hot rod and everything. But the Razor Crest is so cool. And I feel like this is a
Yeah, it's
good
better.
episode where you get to see the guts of it, and you get to see the carbonite, all of his bounties in carbonite on the ship, and he has like a little freezing chamber on the ship. That is so cool, and practically speaking, so smart for a bounty hunter to have that on board.
Yes.
I am curious about the technological advances that have taken place between Empire Strikes Back and The Mandalorian, which takes place 6 years after Return of the Jedi, and I think it's 3 years between Empire and Return, right? So this would be 9 years later.
5 years.
And 5 years.
I was going to say the same thing. I don't
so
want
it'd be 8. I mean, that's quite a leap, right? Because
8
weren't
years
they
later.
in Empire? Carbonite was a pretty novel technology. I mean, they didn't even know if Luke Skywalker was going to be able to survive the carbon freezing process. Now they have these things built into ships. I mean, that's a pretty significant leap.
No, I don't think it was a novel process. I think it was just carbon freezing on Cloud City. So out of that one,
So this isn't
because when he comes out, C-3PO technology. I think it's well established. C-3PO recognized it right away when he turns around. So, it was C-3PO. But I don't get that vibe from Empire that it merging tech. I think about it. I want to rewatch it because I think they might explicitly say at some point it's old and we don't use it. He definitely says we don't use it for organics, maybe. Then what do you use it for? Do they use it to freeze gas? Is that what its purpose is?
That would make sense. Have we seen other uses of carbon freezing?
In the Clone Wars, they carbon freeze themselves to sneak into the Citadel.
Oh, yep, they do. Okay. So it is much older technology, because that would be 20... That would be like 20, at least 24 years. Yeah. I think that was early in the Clone Wars, too. Yeah. So it's about 20. Okay, so that technology's been around for a while. All right, I take it back. We reached the end of that. We can move on. I apologize. Proceed.
All right. After the Razor Crest, we get introduced to Grief Karga. And I had unfair negative feelings toward Grief Karga because, like I was saying about Grogu and the Throne, my experience with The Mandalorian has shifted to more merchandise base, for better and worse. And I just, started to believe that Grief Karga is a shit character because he's a shit toy. And the Grief Karga toys, everyone that's been released has been a peg warmer for months and months and not popular. I have one. I think I might have two. So cheap everywhere, and I just picked them up. And they're my least favorites, and so I just assumed I wouldn't like Grief Karga. But I did. At least I didn't dislike him. I mean, he didn't do anything cool to make me like him a lot, but there's no reason to dislike him like I was before. What do you guys think of that scene?
Knowing where his character arc goes, it seemed very incongruent to how he ends up.
I agree. I think that's my thing too, is that he starts off so good, but as we go on, Luke, I feel like you'll come back around to not liking Grief Karga, because I think
possible.
he did start off kind of cool, yeah. And I was like, I feel like the same thing is that he is in this first episode, in all the promo, like Carl Weathers in Star Wars, absolutely love this, right? And then first episode, great. By the second season, I feel like though it's like, I don't know. He's fine. He's fine. He doesn't do anything for me. In this episode, though, he gives a lot of hope.
Well, and to me, it's just like, who is this guy that? And I think a lot of his character arc takes place off screen, which also makes it a little bit jarring, because I'm pretty sure at some point between season 1 and 2 is when most of his advancements happen and he becomes the High Magistrate and starts turning the city around. But I'm like, you're just like a local bounty dealer. Like, who are you to become the supreme leader of this whole region? And everyone just falls in line behind that. And clearly
I've
he's
never
got a
thought
knack
about
for
this.
it too,
Isn't that...
because it does well. I mean, the city, they do a good job of showing it as decrepit and gray and broken down, and then when we see it much later, like in Mando season 3, it's beautiful and it's flourishing, and they have schools set up and everything like that. And I'm just like, who is this guy that he just figured out how to do all this? I don't know. That's what I mean by his character. It seems incongruent to where he eventually ends up.
Don't you think that's just Boba Fett's story in Book of Boba Fett also, though?
Yes, and I feel like I've thoroughly complained about that show enough as well.
Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute.
But at least this happens
as
to
you're saying
the sixth main character in a TV show in a storyline that we don't even follow.
That's
true.
Kind of
but
yeah,
in the background.
That is confusing to me now, though. I've never thought about that. I was like, that's the same story, though.
It's like the inverse. The parts we see are the inverse. Grief Karga, his development happens off screen, and then we see him be the magistrate a lot. And then Boba Fett, we see a lot of the development, and then at the end, they're like, "Okay, now you're the leader," and he's like, "No, I don't want to be."
That's confusing.
After Grief Karga, we get introduced to Pliant, Werner Herzog's character. I don't
Great
care for
pronunciation.
This. Thank you. I don't care for him. And I think the reason is because it stinks of someone that doesn't want to be in Star Wars. I just get that vibe from him. Is every scene that he ever does in that chair, like, again, I'm imposing things that we'll see and talk about in the future. But I don't know. It feels like they just wanted to get someone famous, and he was like, all right, fine, I'll do it. But I'm going to be sitting down the whole time, and I'm not going to move to a different set, and I'm going to do it for 3 hours. So just give me all my dialogue.
Luke, I don't think you're far off. I do think it's interesting to have a word. I mean, he's a director, you know. He's like, I don't know if they were like, let's get someone
Werner
famous
Herzog?
because he's such a random. Yeah, that's like
I-
what he does. He's just a director. Like he doesn't really do
I
anything
only
else.
know him from the little bit he was in Parks and Rec. When I think he sells
That's
April and Andy their house so that he can move closer to Disney.
That's so funny. Yeah,
I
he's
don't
just
remember
he's
that
just
at
a
all.
random like director. I think that's just like a weirdly kooky guy that people like, and so they want to put him in his stuff. But yeah, I like him in this because I was like, why is Werner Herzog in this? Like that is the most random person you could possibly think of. I feel like,
Yeah.
but he doesn't bother me. I think like you said though, Luke, I think you're pretty spot on to be like, okay, I have this amount of time. I'm not moving. I'm old. Like that it very much does feel like that.
I don't know
we
anything
make such a
about
big
him.
we make such a big deal about Jack Black and Lizzo in the future. And here we're already talking about their inclusion of seemingly random and out of place actors. And it's just episode 1. We just let him
The
go.
first one,
for
no,
all
the
this
first
time.
one I will give you. That is more along the lines of Jack Black, although that guy is not nearly as famous as either of them.
No.
The Herzog thing, I don't know any of his history. I actually didn't know that he was a director. I just assumed that he was an old actor, probably started in theater and has been classically trained. And I love The Client. And I think that he is a great character and they should have included him more. But for some reason, Star Wars keeps taking like all of these incredibly old, highly trained classical actors like Max von Sydow and Werner Herzog, and they're just like, oh yeah, we're gonna like publish the shit out of that this person's gonna be in it and everyone's gonna be interested, and then it turns out that they're just gonna die off immediately. But I like the character a lot. I think he feels. The reason I assumed he was classically trained is probably because A, he has an accent. Don't know what it is. Is it German? Based on his name, that's
Yeah,
what I'm
the
guessing.
guy.
I feel like that helps actors. We talked about this a lot with Andor. Everyone has a British accent, and it makes everyone seem so much fancier and the acting more posh, in my opinion. And that's kind of how I felt about this. Like, I feel like Carl Weathers stuck out a lot more than Werner Herzog did, but I like him. I like the character. I wish he stuck around more. Stick around for another 8 weeks, and we'll talk more about that. Spoilers to come.
He's in episode 8. I was wondering when he's in it next.
Actually, I think he's not in 8. I think he's in the end of 7.
Can't wait. I'm sitting in that same chair probably.
Well, he is an elder gentleman, too. That's the other thing you have to keep in mind, too. How old was he when this came out in 2019? I mean, keep in mind, from his perspective, he is like, this was a children's show, or this was a children's movie when it
No,
came
it
out
wasn't.
in 1977. He's like, this is,
Oh,
to
that
him,
was.
it would have been, because he would have been 40 when it came out, when A New Hope would have come out. It's not like he was a
currently
kid in the
82.
80s who like grew up with it and it was a part of his childhood. You know what I mean?
Was born in 42. I'm sorry, Matt, is that what you just said?
He's currently 82. Yeah. So yeah, either way.
So
yes.
he was born in
So
42. So in 77, he would have been 35.
35.
So when A New Hope came out, he was
middle-aged
probably
man.
like, yeah, he was probably like, oh, this is like a cute kids movie when A New Hope was first coming out.
That's fair. That's a good point. We also get to meet Dr. Pershing, a character that I quite like. And even in just this scene, he captivated me. Like, not just taking into account the things that he'll do in that episode where it's all him. I don't know. I was interested by it. I got just enough ease of they're doing some science thing. They set up so much good plot in episode 1. It really sets you
Yeah,
up
they do.
for a very good season of television. I'm curious to see if I'm going to like it as much as I like the setups in episode 1. After that, we meet
Yeah.
Armorer, who I've always taken issue with the way Mandalorians kind of speak. Like, I get that they're all people of few words, but when you're all a person of few words, it just doesn't make for very interesting television, you know? Like it's fun when Mando's around a bunch of chatty people and he keeps like looking at them, but then they're all together and he's just like, "I was a foundling once. Yes, I remember. What are we doing here? I don't know."
Yep.
It's like having dinner with a bunch
Luke,
of
I
introverts.
agree.
It's like, it's okay for one of you to be, but we do need somebody here to take lead of this conversation. I
Yes.
disagree, though. At least for
Interesting.
the first episode. The first episode, because it's still introducing us the characters and their dynamics and the culture, that it is intriguing enough that it makes you wonder. You want to know more about this Mandalorian sect and what is the way and why do they never lift off their helmets? Like, at this point in time, keep in mind too, that was all brand new information to us because we'd seen Mandalorians before and they've definitely taken their helmets off. So it did not bother me in the first episode, but later on,
I don't think they say this is the way in the first. Correct me if I'm not going to literally
not?
keep
I
a
don't think they
tally
do either.
of this is the ways, but I'm pretty sure. I don't think so.
I don't think they
I
do.
feel like I could have sworn that they did, but now that you're calling me out on it, I am less confident. I mean, what did they? Not to we just complimented the writing, so I'm not trying to bash it. But if she didn't say this is the way at any point during her conversation with Din Djarin, what did she talk about with him?
Nothing.
Nothing.
She said,
Yeah,
"This is a generous contribution. It will service a lot of foundlings from it." And then a
So what's the
pauldron is
first
in
time?
order. She
All
said
right.
that his signet has not been revealed yet.
Yeah, I remember that. I'm gonna go back and double check just to make sure, and then I am gonna definitely keep an ear out in the future for the first time that they start saying this is the way. Because also going back to 2019, I feel like that was just taking the Star Wars fandom by storm, that phrase, and so it's just shocking to me. If it wasn't even in the first episode, it's not going to be in the second episode, which means that it's going to have to be in the third episodes where that starts being said. Interesting.
I think it is in the third episode. I remember when this was coming out in fall of 2019. I was on Twitter and I was not watching it before I went to work, like I should have, like I did for later series. And I remember after the first episode, everyone was posting all the pics of Baby Yoda, and that was all the rage. And I remember they were all tagged with spoiler, and I looked at them, and so I did have that spoiled for me. But I just like, that's so goofy. You can't. How can Baby Yoda? But that worked out. And then after episode 2, I don't remember anything specific, but I do remember in the third week, everyone saying this is the way on Twitter, and me reading this at work, waiting to watch the episode. Like, oh, what does that mean?
Yeah, I think it is like it's not a long con. That seems weird, but I think they do reveal it at a good spot. I don't think it is off the jump. With that being said, I don't like the armor. She's my least favorite character in the whole show, I think. We've talked about this too, but just like, I wish she would have turned bad as the show went on or something, or like she was like, if she's the stickler, but just nothing ever happens with her, and it always just kind of annoyed me. I was like, oh, I wish she ends up being villainous or something or whatever, and nothing ever happens with it.
Yeah.
I was just like, God damn it.
We talked
Like,
about that.
the
a lot
rule
for
follower
season
is the
3.
most boring character, right? Yeah, and that's one of those things where it's not one of those things where it's like, oh, our perspective of the show is different or something, that like, like with Palpatine or something, it's like, oh, they could have done this better or whatever. It's just like, oh, they just, like Luke said, like, she doesn't have any interesting dialogue. Nothing ever really happens with her. What's going on here? Like, if, I'd rather, Paz Vizsla has like interesting dialogue, in comparison to her and stuff too. It's like, oh, I'd rather just have like these other more interesting Mandalorians talk.
I agree. She does a lot of exposition, and but it just feels like she's in, and because she only interacts with Mandalorians. I think in season 3 she interacts with still Mandalorians because they're on Mandalore. But I remember her interacting with like those local Mandalorians on Mandalore a little bit. That was interesting. But it just feels like every time she's talking to other Mandalorians, they're all in a fight to stalk the lead, and it's just it just feels unnatural. But at least this one,
I don't.
trying to stay.
As far as an introduction to the character, I don't mind it. I like the armor. I think she's a cool character. I think your criticism of her character arc and where it goes over the next 3 seasons is fair. I think that's something that we talked about when we were reviewing season 3. Because you are kind of wondering the entire time, right? Because she has the horns on her helmet, and so they are like some sort of descendant of Death Watch, and it's like, well, what are your guys' beliefs exactly? But and that could have been, more interesting than where it does go. But as far as the first episode goes, I think she's like my second most interesting or my second most favorite character. I like her. I don't know. I don't share the criticism, the same criticism that you guys have as far as the first episode goes.
Or
Yes, first episode.
Hasvizla's not the first. Not fair to talk about him, but for a society of people that don't want to talk, how much I like them is based mostly on how cool they look. And Mando and Armorer and Hasvizla all look not that similar. They're all Mandalorian, but they all look super cool in their own way. So they do nail costuming.
But don't say that.
Armorer.
Don't say that in like a self deprecating type of way. Like I feel like you're just saying like I just think that they look cool. Like their aesthetic is a very important part of their culture. Like we are discussing their armor here, and like I said, the fact that she has horns on her helmet like immediately was a big talking point online after seeing her for the first time and everything. So I mean, we're not being superficial here. These are legitimate things that are being raised.
I never think costuming.
Yeah.
I just, for some reason, the way you were putting it sounded superficial, or like you weren't giving yourself enough credit. You just seemed like you were saying like, yeah, I'm just basing it almost strictly off of looks. And I'm like, well, that is an important aspect. I don't know. Whatever.
Speaking of looks, I thought about this today. Has Black Series not released a Jango Fett helmet? It's the same mold. They've released a million other Boba Fett versions and variants, but
They
never
just
Jango Fett?
Signed 6 Jango Fett Black, I would imagine.
I would hope, because I was just thinking about how I was like, do I want to pull the trigger on the Empire Boba Fett? And I was like, no, I really want Jango Fett. I was like, why does this not exist? It feels like they could have done it 3 years ago for the anniversary, but they didn't.
Correct. They absolutely
stay
should
patient.
have, but
Coming soon.
the fan base is very optimistic that it is coming. I'm optimistic enough that I've purposefully not purchased one from Cybercraft because I'm like, Hasbro needs to be releasing one at some point.
Then we go to the planet with the blurgs and Creel. And I'm excited to talk about this scene because I thought Matt and I were going to have a bonding, similar, same take moment. But then you came in talking about how Mando is actually really good at fighting. And you're usually saying that he kind of sucks at it. And yeah, he gets taken out by these blurgs right away. And it's like he's looking in his space binoculars and they sneak up right on him. And it's like these things are huge and bulky. And you like a moron now.
To be fair, with the first episode especially, I feel like a lot of his fights are designed to just highlight different aspects of his kit. Because as soon as he's taken by the blurs, I'm pretty sure he like tries to use his flamethrower for absolutely no reason. But as soon as he does, you're kind of like, oh, he has that too. I didn't say it earlier when they were on the snow planet, but it was the same thing when that ice monster comes up and bites the ship, and then he just kind of like stabs at it with his pulse rifle and just tries to like shock it a little bit. It's like, oh, he can do that. So I feel like that's a lot of it. But also, blurgs. We'd seen them before on Ryloth and Clone Wars, so these aren't new to Star Wars, but they are new to live action. But also, how common do you think these animals are in the universe? Like, every time you go to a planet, you have to be seeing something new for the first time. And so can you imagine seeing that animal for the first time and just being like, what the hell is that? You're looking at it through binoculars. You really don't have any good grasp of the scale of it. And then you lower your
he's not looking
binoculars
at
and this
anything
thing's
through
just
the
looking right at
binoculars.
you.
He's looking at the
Didn't you see one in
landscape.
distance?
No, he's looking
I
at
thought
Dick.
he sees one in the distance
Just
and then he
looking.
pulls...
I'll watch the scene again. But
in that universe, you gotta be like you gotta know, right? And that's the thing too. I know we've joked about intricacies and yada yada yada, but it is true too to be like, you know how like school like teaches you what's out in the world, to be like, these are what like snakes are like, or whatever, or spiders, and like blah blah. I feel like they have to have some sort of lesson of like what potentially you can interact with like in your like realm or whatever too. That's crazy to be, you have to have some sort of basis of what is out there.
Some sort of word of warning. I mean, could you imagine if you'd never even heard of a rancor before in your life, and then you go to a planet where rancors are indigenous, and you're just like, you know what I mean? Like, before you land, there needs to be some sort of video that pops up being like, hey, welcome to this planet. Here's a quick synopsis of our local animal life.
But at the same time, I think that, or I say that, but like realistically, like I feel like there's so many weird bugs and there's so many weird like giant things that are in the rainforest or like even in Australia that I'm like, huh? And it's like, if I went there and I saw that like one of those giant spiders that people post, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like the same thing with the camel spiders, how they're like huge in the Middle East. I wouldn't know what the fuck I would be like, what the fuck is that? Like, I know what it semi looks like, but like, it's giant. Like, I see like grass spiders, wolf spiders, but like on steroids, that's insane to me still.
That's terrible.
So, you know what? I don't know.
He does see blurgs in the distance. It's not his scope on his pulse rifle. And he does see a blurg in the distance. There are two shots of him looking through. First one you see blurgs, and the second one so I must have missed calling me out. But then we meet
wasn't wrong
Kuil.
about two scenes in the same episode, because I was about to say, I promise I did watch this.
We still got time, don't worry.
How we feel about Kuil? I love him.
Hot take.
Fine.
Two thumbs down. Provides nothing
Really?
of interest.
Interesting.
Why does he say I have spoken? Do all Ugnots speak in basic? I don't know. It raises questions.
Do you think it's do you think it's two thumbs down this episode, or two thumbs down as a whole, because it basically goes nowhere and he's a character that's basically just set up to die?
I would just say this episode, because I feel like his death actually makes his character so much better. I think they should be killing off more characters in Star Wars. It's a universe filled with characters. We can always get more.
No, they do it. They do that all the time with everything else. You need that. Michael B. Jordan's like a great character in Black Panther, and it's like, why did you kill off every single character in the MCU? You gotta keep some of them around.
Well, for
legacy
supervillain
characters,
team-up, absolutely. That's a whole different conversation, though. They need to be doing supervillain team-ups because they've already done the superhero team-ups, and you can't do a superhero team-up against one big bad. Working them all against Thanos is only going to work one time. Now you need an army of Thanoses. Regardless, well, we could discuss that in another episode. Kuil, he gives a lot of backstory. No, he didn't really.
That's
give
the
much
armor
backstory.
too, though.
No, because the armor makes sense, though, because you're finding out more about the Mandalorian culture. No, because I'm kind of blurring episode 2 a little bit as well, because he's pretty prevalent in episode 2.
Hell yeah.
But I don't know. Like, his addition feels very unnecessary, distracting. I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't love it.
I quite like Kuil, even though I don't like puppets.
It's the first time,
for the sake of being a puppet.
in an otherwise fantastic episode that you start to kind of feel like you're going down a sidetrack. You're just like, okay, he's going to learn how to ride a blurg now so that he can ride to this thing on the other side of the planet. I don't know.
Yeah, I see your point, but I like it. Even though I typically, and I've said it before, I don't like having puppets for puppet's sake when you could do it better digitally. The words don't line up with his mouth. The blurgs, I think, also look a little too practical, and but they're designed. But I like. Is he a little bit ruined for me, by RFK Jr.? A little. Couldn't help but think about him.
Yeah,
but
because you think he sounds like him.
That's just his voice too.
Yes, because I think he sounds like him. Max, have you heard these two people?
Yeah, I did not make the connection.
It's unbelievable.
That's hilarious.
Matt, what are you on? What's your stance on Queel?
Yeah, like I think he's fine. You know, I accept him in this universe as well. I think it's a nice fake out that you think he's going to be sort of like this Obi-Wan-ish type character, and then they kill him off. You know, I know that's towards the end of the season or at the end of the last episode or so, but I do kind of like that bit of a fake out. Again, he is semi annoying, but like it's interesting to see. You know, it's like he always, you know, this is
I don't wanna
almost the
blow your
first
mind here.
version of This Is the Way. Yeah.
Saying kind of set him up to be the Obi-Wan character, and then they kill him a bit before. Good.
Just
You do
Obi-Wan.
know what happens to Obi-Wan, right?
I never made that connection.
All right, and then
Nick Nolte,
let's just talk
real
about
quick.
the whole last fight.
Another
Nolte,
quick
yeah.
note on Nick Nolte is he also has a distinguished face. Like he's kind of an older guy now, and he's very like he looks worn and scarred and cut, and like he kind of fits that like worn in feel of Star Wars. So he's also just a person who, to me, makes more sense not to have him be a creature. Like I feel like Nick Nolte definitely should have been a human in this, and maybe they could have made somebody else a creature if they really wanted to. I don't know. Making him an Ugnaught seems like a weird choice.
No, because you would have had to do the same thing with Werner Herzog and just put him in a chair somewhere because he's old as shit. Just have him be a voice. I think that works perfectly. Also, I recognize that Kuiil is an Ugnaught, an alien, but he still kind of looks like Nick Nolte. I don't know if it's just the voice that's making me think this.
He does
but
a little bit because Nick Nolte's kind of a weird looking guy.
yeah.
He is. Would you believe that he was People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive, 1996?
96?
Isn't that crazy?
I feel like I would have expected
Yes.
76. I literally just tried looking him up, but I did not see how old he is. How old is Nick Nolte?
I don't. He was.
I would
He's a
guess
booze bag though,
80.
or was a booze bag, which is. I think he's like maybe in his early 70s.
Maybe
Maybe
in his early
71.
70s. No chance. Let me see.
I'm pretty sure.
Born in 41, so he 84 this year.
Oh, it's a
His
lot older
birthday's
than
in
I thought he
February.
was.
Is 84.
What year was he born? 41.
1941.
And he was sexiest man in 96 when he was 55
believe
years old.
55. Yuck.
It's a
They just didn't know what sexy was till I was
age.
born
Sorry.
in 97.
Sorry, 1992. 1992.
That's
I
not
lied.
that
4-year
much better.
difference.
51.
But real quick, since you're on this, Google Nick Nolte Sexiest Man Alive. The picture they chose looks like the second cutest dad at a barbecue. Like, it's not even. I don't understand how they could come to this conclusion, to be honest.
Aren't
It's not a very
they? I mean, isn't Sexiest Man Alive like kind of a famously underwhelming award? Like, didn't Jason Kelsey win it a couple years ago? And people were like, "Yeah, like he's like really popular
Yes.
right now.
Popular
but let's
right
not
now."
overdo it right now." Like
Yes.
Ryan Gosling
but-
does still exist. Like, there's no reason for him not to be winning this year after year.
Exactly. But this could be where it started. is Nick Nolte.
Drop the ball on that. Good voice. Like the guy's voice. Does look like a pig alien.
Who do you think is the oldest living actor who's won Sexiest Man Alive? Person
Ooh,
to live.
I was
Based on
gonna
when
say
they
Matt
won it, or
Lofty.
just oldest living actor?
No,
Say it again?
today. He won it in 1985.
The oldest one today?
Yeah.
Ellen?
There's no way he got Sexiest Man Alive, right?
No, I'm almost certain he did not. No, it's Mel Gibson. He won in 85.
Yeah. How old is Mel Gibson?
Ian McKellen never once been alive. He's a good looking lad.
Although Sean Connery won it in 89. He was 59 when Sean Connery won it. This is crazy. I'm going down a rabbit hole now. Why are they picking
Wait, are you
such
saying
old
Mel
guys?
Gibson? Are you saying Mel Gibson was the oldest at the time?
No, he's the
No, he's
oldest.
just oldest right now.
He's the
No.
one who won it
Mel
the longest to
Gibson's-
go, I guess is how I'm trying to phrase that.
This is confusing.
So whoever won it in 88 is dead.
No, 88 was JFK Jr. Mel Gibson was
Well,
85.
Oh, 85. So whoever won it in 84 is dead.
Yeah.
That long ago. Freaking old.
How old was Mel Gibson in 85? How old is Mel Gibson now? He's pretty old too. Is he 80? He's not 80.
69.
69.
He's
Do you know
69.
that, or is that your guess?
I know that.
Oh.
Because you already Googled
Not
it,
to
or 'cause
brag,
you know
but
that?
not to brag,
So
but
he
I
was-
worked
so he
on
was born in
Flight Risk,
56.
and we
So he would've been
weren't able
29
to
at the
use the. Well, that is
A
actually
29-year-old
scary.
is
When did
a
Lethal
more
Weapon come out?
appropriate age for that title.
Do you guys like
70.
Lethal Weapon?
7.
I
Never seen
haven't
it.
seen it since I was a child.
It's so much better than Die Hard. I don't like Die Hard that much, and me and my brother Mike we both agree. Lethal Weapon's fucking awesome. Die Hard significantly overrated. Lethal Weapon significantly underrated. I don't like looking at Mel Gibson and Mad Max now, knowing that he was significantly younger than I am now. That's kind of sad. I think I sent you guys this
All right,
too,
back
but
to to
you
the
guys see, like,
Mandalorian.
if Seinfeld,
Yeah, I took us down a
yes,
weird
let's do that.
rabbit
Let's
hole.
do that. Sorry, yeah.
We have the final battle with IG-11. IG-11? Oh, great droid, great work by and the battle also very good. Absolutely love this scene. That shot of IG-11 spinning around, putting his arm behind his back and shooting people that way. Love it. Absolutely love this fight. I do
turret scene,
remember
amazing.
the turret being a little bit more intuitive, I'll say. I did not remember that they just drove it right up to the pillar. I thought that he had to do a little bit more work to get to it so immediately. But I still loved it.
It felt like when you're playing a war video game and you replay it, knowing how to get in there easier. And so the first time was
it
really
did
hard, but
feel like that.
You're
the
overthinking
second
it.
That is
time
a
you're like, oh,
very
I know
good
what
way
to do
to
now.
put it.
It's funny that everyone's had that experience before.
At least
I
the
like
three of
that
us.
scene quite a
But
bit.
yeah,
Obviously, it's very exciting. IG-11, I like it when Star Wars just makes sense, and that was the first time that we saw an IG droid actually work and move and shoot, and like everything about it, how it turned, how it has like eyes that constantly move around, and he's constantly shooting in like 360-degree vision. Like, it just makes so much sense. Like, I'd never seen that before, but like I'm watching it and I'm just like, yeah, of course that's how that works. That's fucking awesome. The thing that I thought was interesting, though, when I'm rewatching this and they're talking about how he was the only IG-11 says that he thought he was the only one on assignment or whatever, and then Mandalorian says that makes both of us, or that makes two of us, or whatever. And I got to wondering, because when Mandalorian took this assignment, the client said that they wanted him alive, but they would accept dead if necessary or whatever. And then Pershing kind of throws a little hissy fit. But then IG-11's orders were to bring it in dead. So I'm wondering if they even got this bounty from the same person, or if they were actually working for different people. Maybe somebody was trying to stop Moff Gideon, who knew what was going on, maybe not for altruistic means. I'm not saying that there was a good person working behind the scenes. I think this is probably a lot of Imperial infighting, which happens again at the end of the season, again, when we talk about the end of the client's story, and Moff Gideon enters the picture. But I'm thinking maybe there was somebody else who was also after this child, and they weren't actually both hired by the client.
That's an interesting take. I would
don't
love to
think
think
so.
that's true. I don't think it is either. I think it's a cool theory, but I think they're just kind of shitty people that are having different directives, and I think
Why would he tell
You
him
know,
to bring
having-
it in dead?
Yeah, because I was
think they
thinking
just
like,
wanted
oh,
it
maybe
in either way.
I was thinking that like maybe IG-11 heard either way, and he just prefers to bring him. But he says our orders are clear. Terminate the asset. Definitely told.
Correct.
I don't know.
So so
Interesting.
if it was the client who hired both of them, that means that the client actual preference is for the child to die, and he just said it outside of Pershing's outside of his earshot. Yeah, he just wasn't in the room when he was talking about it. But then it's like, well, why is Pershing's view different than the client's? And so it's like, well, the client might know what Moff Gideon is trying to do this for, and this is a power vacuum that everyone's trying to fill. If he is trying to supplant Moff Gideon, then he doesn't want this child to be alive, so he says, kill it. And maybe Moff Gideon is onto this, and we know that, and that's why he kills them at the end of episode 7 / going into episode 8. But then it also draws into
I'm gonna
question
start calling for
Pershing's
spoiler
allegiances.
I do not remember. Sorry.
It draws into question Pershing's allegiances too, though. Is he actually allied with Moff Gideon and what he's trying to do with the child? Because then I have to jump forward to season 3, and I'm like, well, probably not, because he defects pretty easily back to the New Republic, and after defecting to the New Republic, the remnant was concerned enough about his knowledge that they wiped his brain or did whatever they had to do to him. So it's like I'm curious as to the Mind Flayer. I'm curious as to the mixed allegiances that we see in this remnant Imperial faction.
I don't think this is a plot hole,
That's interesting.
but none of these answers.
I don't think so either.
I don't think
It's just
anything
something
you're
fun to
saying
think
is
about.
right. I don't think this is fun to think.
I think it's fun to think about.
I feel like there should be an answer to this, and I don't like any of these possible answers. I don't know. It's not by definition, but it's not a plot hole. They could have done. They could have done it so much better if like he killed IG-11 because he was a droid. Some slightly different reason than introduced potential plot hole. I don't know. I got to think about it more. I also got to watch the series. You guys are jumping ahead of me. And I apparently have not watched all of season 1.
We'll
Probably
keep it front of mind as we go on.
I will.
We'll
I will.
revisit this conversation in 2 weeks. Unfortunately, next week we're not.
No, next week. I'm excited to rewatch that episode too.
I distinctly remember next
Mando-
week being a filler episode.
Mando shoots IG-11 and he meets Grogu. Great shot. Grogu's super cute.
It's one of the most iconic shots in Star Wars. The last shot of this episode, yeah, it's
10 out of
become like I'm not one of those people, as you know, as our listeners presumably know, to be like, oh, something that's like super new is like going to be iconic this soon, but it is. That is the one of the top tier moments of iconography of Mandalorian. I mean, of Star Wars rather.
And then the last jump out of my seat moment was when I saw Dave Filoni directed this. I could have sworn Jon Favreau directed it, and I thought Dave only directed the episode on Tatooine with Toro Calican. This is a great episode. I feel like we've talked about Dave Filoni and all the episodes that he's directed, and we never talk about this one because he only directs ones with legacy characters, and they're not that good at first, and then they get better throughout Ahsoka. This is fantastic work, Dave. I'm sorry for denying your flowers at some point in our past.
Yeah, admittedly, this is news to me. I did not catch that on rewatch that this was Dave Filoni.
Yeah,
I just kind of
nor
assumed
did
that
I.
it was Jon Favreau.
This is well into tinfoil hat territory. I think it was released, and they said it was Jon Favreau. I think they changed this over the last 6 years.
Oh,
I
we don't have physical media. There's no way to fact check this.
There's something else. Just
Is
like
this
that.
revisionist history, or is this just a Berenstain Bears moment?
There's no way they would. The difference between Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni directing it is so slim. That's why they think they can get away with it.
It's the perfect crime, especially after they hired Dave Filoni. What if Dave Filoni did it without telling anyone once he became the chief creative officer, whatever his promotion was?
Wasn't it such a big deal? Episode, what is it, 5 or 6 with Toro Callahan and
Yeah, that he
Fennec
directed it?
Shand,
We're like, oh,
that
it's
he
the
directed
Filoni
it.
episode.
Yeah,
I
it was
thought
his
so too.
directorial debut. Ah,
But that was everyone's least favorite episodes because they didn't know that Boba Fett was in it. So he was like, no, I did episode 1.
I was really hoping you guys were gonna say both knew that Dave Filoni had talked me off the ledge here. This
No.
isn't
I love a
good.
conspiracy
This is
theory,
gonna
buddy.
gonna
I'm
eat me up.
gaslighting you. I could have sworn this was Jon Favreau.
Because
Real
which
quick.
one did Jon Favreau direct? Did he direct any of season 1? Surely he directs episode 8. They say Dave Filoni directed episode 8. I'm looking at it right now.
But real quick, I also want to go back to Grogu and
Taika
talk about this
Waititi.
for a little bit.
I kind of remember.
I do remember that. Because it has his character sacrifice in it, and it seemed very self-serving.
Yes.
It's such a great moment. It's off.
It is a good moment, but when you find out that it's like your own character that you're doing that with, it's kind of like, okay. No, it's a good moment. It's a good moment. Grogu is 50 years old at the time of this episode. And, I mean, what is the human equivalent of his age? I mean, 1 year old?
Nick Nolte, 1992. Oh, yeah.
Jon
sorry.
Favreau didn't direct any of season 1. I don't
No
know.
way.
That doesn't seem right.
That
That doesn't seem right at all.
That is not my recollection.
Directed episode, I guess, would be his directorial debut for The Mandalorian, which is one of my favorite
But
episodes.
that's it?
I mean, I'm sure more
We gotta-
after that, but that's the first one.
We got to go back and
All
watch interviews now with John and Dave. Because I'm sure they would have said it, like, in the interview.
Yeah. Or like articles from back in the day.
But how old do you think Grogu is,
50.
like, in human years? The human equivalent. Like, do you think he's a 1 year old?
No, you can't do equivalent because I don't think they age. I think it's
They don't,
Oh.
and that's what I want to try to explain. Because he's 50 years old, and Yoda dies at 800 or 900?
900.
900. So that means that he is 1/18th the age of Yoda, which means that if he's the human equivalent of 1 year old, then Yoda is the human equivalent of an 18-year-old, which obviously he's not. So it is interesting because, Luke, you're correct. That means that Yoda species have to age exponentially, which is why it makes more sense that in episode 2 Attack of the Clones, Yoda is jumping all around Count Dooku and doing all of this crazy lightsaber maneuvers, and then just until Return of the Jedi, which would have been, what would that be, less than 30 years? It's like less than 30 years later, and he's like reliant on the cane and he can't move, and he's like on his deathbed and he's just like passing just because he's like old now. And it's like, well, what happened in those 30 years? Well, in those 30 years, he aged the equivalent of 300 years. And I think that's fascinating.
I agree. Yeah.
then where does Yaddle fit in?
That
old
fine
would
piece of
Yaddle
ass. I don't know.
There's no Yaddling. There's always a.
Well, the Yaddle.
Thanks for
angle
listening,
is-
everyone.
The Yaddle
This has been one of the
angle is
most
that Yaddle
poorly
speaks
hosted
basic.
episodes in years.
No, I
having so many
disagree.
different thoughts now. Yaddle speaks
I'm
basic
doing my best out here.
because
Next
the-
week
the
we're doing.
theory-
Go on.
The theory is that Grogu is at some point going to say the way this is, because everyone thinks that's the way that he's supposed to talk, but it's not. That had to have been a learned thing that Yoda picked up on. That's not a natural thing that Yoda does.
You only have 2 samples, though. How do you know it's not a learned thing that Yaddle picked up on, and Yoda's is the natural way?
Oh,
Because that's the way everyone else speaks. So if you're going to learn one way, surely you'd learn it that way.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for
That does
listening.
cut both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, we got force for wait. Do we
I
have?
have a force for thought. And it's a good one, and I'm excited to present it because I was watching Return of the Jedi, the space battle, Millennium Falcon flying through the Death Star, being chased by TIE fighters and the X-wings, and space is getting tighter, and then they go into that huge chasm, and they blow up whatever, and then they escape just in time. But this time, when I was rewatching it, I noticed that there was a TIE fighter, or maybe it was an interceptor, I don't know, behind the Millennium Falcon, chasing it, chases it into the reactor chamber room. Lando shoots his thing, turns around, TIE fighter still chasing. Everything starts blowing up, TIE fighter still chasing, and then it presumably blows up because Lando gets out at the last second. But dude, you got to take your shot, TIE pilot. You can't just chase for this long. Like after he shoots after Lando shoots the reactor core, like you might as well just turn around at that point. What are you even doing?
Yeah, up until that point, I get it, because it's like you don't want to be the guy who accidentally blows up the Death Star, right? You don't want to be like, I'm going to be a hero and take out the Millennium Falcon and then actually commit mass genocide. But is that actually how that scene plays out? I thought that TIE fighter only follows them into it because then they take like a hard bank or something and the TIE fighter like kind of bounces around and blows up.
No, it follows them. It follows them for so long. Because I'm not even going to
Are there
look this up 'cause
multiple
I just
TIE fighters?
rewatched
Because I
it.
know for a fact one of them...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I can picture that shot you're thinking of as well. And that definitely happens. But there is one, I think it's just one TIE fighter that is following them before they enter the reactor chamber, inside the reactor chamber, and outside the reactor chamber. And
yeah, that is far too long.
the lack of... Yeah, you can't just follow
think he
for
was just
following
out of
sake.
ammo?
You gotta
He was
shoot.
out of missiles, and he's just like, I'm onto them, but then he's like, damn it, I don't know.
He could have
way
just
too
left first, but then Lando surely would have shot him in the back, even though he's essentially a deserter at that point. He was in front.
Interesting.
All right. Thanks for listening. Sorry,
We got a lot of.
I don't know why I'm so low on this episode of our podcast. I just feel like I let the listener down with my hosting. This was so aimless. Next week I'll be better.
You did great.
Tune in. We'll watch episode 2. If you'd like to watch along with us, episode 2 next week. But also we release every other week now, right? We're doing that consistent enough that we should tell the list. Ben, right?
Are we
Well, we haven't been.
so far?
We haven't
we
been.
haven't
We
been.
just
We
did.
were talk-
I thought
Yeah,
we
we have
did.
episode
We
coming
just
out
did that
tomorrow.
once when you were moving. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right, next week then.
Disregard.
Disregard.
For now.
Watch episode 2 this week, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Let us know if you want us to have more Sexiest Man Alive content.
And
of,
robe cozy
Matthew?
episodes. What?
I was just waiting for your sign off. I was just calling Sammy sexy. It's
Oh.
nothing.
Oh, see you, Sammy. See you, sexy Sammy.